When the world turns its back on you, when the noise of doubt, jealousy, and weakness fills the air, that is when real men are born. Not through shouting, not through begging for validation, but through silence. Silence is the breeding ground of strength. Silence is where battles are fought before they ever reach the world. You don't need to announce every step you take. You don't need the applause of the crowd, because true warriors understand that results speak louder than any words ever could. The man who moves in silence is dangerous, because nobody sees him coming. He doesn't chase recognition, he chases greatness. He doesn't boast about his plans, he builds empires quietly until the world is forced to notice. Noise is for the weak. It's for those who need attention to validate their existence. A real man knows his worth. He carries himself with calmness, discipline, and unshakable confidence. While others are busy talking, he is busy doing. While they scream for respect, he earns it without saying a word. Power is not proven by volume, it is proven by action. Real men do not declare their rise, they let the results scream for them. Silence is strength, not weakness. The modern world has conditioned people to believe that the loudest voice is the most powerful, that the one who speaks the most commands the most respect, that to be noticed, you must constantly broadcast every move you make. But this is a lie, a dangerous illusion that traps men into chasing attention instead of building real power. True strength does not need validation. It does not need noise. It does not need a stage. Real strength exists in silence, when no eyes are watching, no applause is given, and no one is there to cheer. That is where discipline grows, where character is forged, and where greatness is built brick by brick. A man who understands the power of silence becomes unshakable. He doesn't reveal his plans to the world because he knows the world is full of envy, full of weak men who would rather see him fail than succeed. By keeping silent, he protects his vision. He shields his mission from unnecessary distractions. Every word not spoken becomes energy saved for action. Every plan not revealed is a fortress against sabotage. And every move made in silence hits harder because nobody expects it. When silence is mastered, it turns a man into a force of nature, calm on the surface, unstoppable underneath. Weak men crave noise. They need to broadcast their every step on social media. They need to tell their friends their dreams. They need to talk about what they will do because talking gives them a temporary rush of satisfaction. But they don't understand that every time they open their mouth, they lose power. Talking replaces doing. Announcing replaces building. And when the time comes to deliver, there's nothing left but empty promises. Noise is weakness disguised as confidence, while silence is confidence disguised as nothing. Silence doesn't beg for attention, it commands it when the results arrive. Think of the greats in history. They didn't run around shouting about their every move. They studied in silence, they trained in silence, they worked in silence. By the time the world saw them, they were already unshakable, already masters, already too far ahead to be caught. A lion doesn't roar before the hunt. It moves in silence, calculated, focused, deadly. Only after victory does the roar come, and that roar is undeniable because it is backed by results. A man who lives in silence understands this principle. He doesn't need to tell the world who he is. The world will find out when it sees what he has built. Silence is also discipline. It takes immense control to resist the urge to talk, to brag, to announce. The weak can't handle silence because silence forces them to face themselves. It strips away the illusion. It demands accountability. In silence, you cannot hide behind excuses because the only voice you hear is your own. That is why the strongest men are the quietest. They are too busy listening to themselves, too focused on correcting their flaws, too engaged in building their empire to waste time with noise. They use silence as a weapon, as a training ground, as a mirror that keeps them sharp and relentless. The man of silence is not passive. He is not timid. He is not afraid to speak. He simply chooses not to waste his words. He speaks when it is necessary, and when he does, people listen. Why? Because they know his words are backed by action, by presence, by a weight that cannot be ignored. The man who speaks less holds more authority, because silence adds gravity to his voice. Words become valuable when they are rare, and silence gives them that value. Weak men drown in chatter, strong men master silence, and that mastery becomes respect. Respect cannot be demanded with noise. You cannot scream for it. You cannot beg for it. You cannot trick people into giving it. Respect is earned by action, by consistency, by results. When you move in silence and build your strength in the shadows, the day will come when the results are undeniable. And when that day arrives, the same people who once ignored you will bow their heads, not because you asked them to, but because your silence turned into power they cannot deny. That is the beauty of silence. It makes your rise untraceable and your success undeniable. Silence is not weakness. It is a shield, a weapon, a discipline, and a strategy. It protects you from envy, it amplifies your strength, it multiplies your authority, and it hardens your spirit. It forces you to face yourself and perfect your craft in ways noise never will. And when the time comes, silence transforms into a thunderclap of results so loud that the world has no choice but to listen. Weak men will always confuse silence with weakness, but real men know the truth. Silence is strength, and those who master it become unstoppable. Results will always speak louder than words. In this world, everyone talks. Everyone claims they're going to do something great. Everyone announces their goals, their dreams, their promises, but words are cheap. Talking is easy. You don't need discipline to talk. You don't need sacrifice to talk. You don't need blood, sweat, or years of grinding to talk. Anyone can say they'll be successful. Anyone can post about ambition. Anyone can make noise about their future. But when the smoke clears, the only thing that matters, the only thing that stands the test of time are the results. Results are undeniable. They can't be faked. They can't be argued against. They can't be silenced. Words fade into air, but results leave a mark forever. A man who focuses on results doesn't need to convince anyone of his value because his actions prove it without debate. When you achieve, when you build, when you succeed, people cannot deny what they see. Your results are your introduction. Your results are your defense. Your results are your legacy. A man who relies only on words is chasing temporary validation. A man who chases results builds permanent respect. That is why the strongest individuals spend less time talking and more time doing, because they understand that the scoreboard of life only records outcomes, not excuses. Results are louder because they demand attention. You don't have to scream about them, they speak for you. When you walk into a room with proven results, you don't need to boast. You don't need to announce yourself. People already know. Your presence becomes heavy because results give you weight. Contrast that with the man who only speaks. He might grab attention for a moment, but when it's time to prove himself, he collapses. His words turn to dust because they had no foundation. Results are the foundation. They are the evidence of effort, the receipt of sacrifice, the undeniable proof that you backed up every claim with action. But building results takes pain. It takes sleepless nights, rejection, failure, discipline, and relentless effort. That is why most people prefer words over results, because words are free, but results cost everything. To achieve, you have to endure struggle, you have to invest years without applause, you have to move through silence while others are celebrated for their empty noise. But when the time comes, when your results arrive, they silence every critic, they shut down every hater, they wipe out every doubt. Words can be challenged, but results cannot. No one can argue against what you have built with your own two hands. Results also create influence. People don't follow someone because of what he says, they follow because of what he has done. The world respects results, not promises. That is why the man who builds consistently, the man who shows evidence of progress, commands more power than the one who speaks endlessly about ambition. You can't inspire others with talk alone. You inspire them with proof, with action, with victories they can see and feel. Words may motivate for a moment, but results motivate for generations. A man who understands that results are louder than words stops wasting energy on convincing people. He doesn't argue with doubters. He doesn't try to prove himself through noise. He doesn't waste time defending his vision. He puts his head down, works relentlessly, and lets the results handle the argument. When results come, there is nothing left to say. The people who once laughed will fall silent. The ones who doubted will watch in awe. And the ones who believed will stand taller because your results have validated everything they knew about you. Results end all discussions because they are truth, and truth cannot be denied. Look at the strongest men in any field, business, sports, leadership, combat. Their respect didn't come from words, it came from results. They didn't need to scream about their greatness because the scoreboard, the trophies, the empire, the victories all spoke for them. They didn't ask for respect, their results forced the world to give it. That's the difference between talking about success and living it. The man with results doesn't just tell the story, he is the story. Words are temporary, results are eternal. Long after words are forgotten, results remain. Long after speeches fade, the evidence of what you built will still stand. That is why you must commit yourself to action above all else. Stop talking about what you will do and start doing it. Stop seeking validation through promises and prove yourself through execution. The man who delivers results will always rise above the man who only delivers words. Results will always speak louder than words because results are the language of reality. They are the final measure, the ultimate truth, the undeniable evidence of who you are and what you've done. You can lie with words, but you cannot lie with results. You can fake confidence with noise, but you cannot fake greatness with results. And at the end of the day, the world only respects one thing, what you've achieved, not what you said you would achieve. Again, results are your voice, results are your proof, results are your power. So stop talking and start doing, because in the end, only results will speak for you. Discipline thrives in solitude. It is in the quiet hours, when no one is watching, when there is no applause, no validation, no spotlight, that true discipline is born. Anyone can perform when the cameras are on, when the crowd is cheering, when recognition is guaranteed. But the question is, what do you do when no one sees you? Do you keep pushing? Do you keep grinding? Do you keep holding yourself to the highest standard? Or do you fall into comfort, into laziness, into excuses? Solitude exposes the truth about who you are. It strips away the external motivators and leaves you alone with your choices. And in that loneliness, discipline either dies or thrives. Discipline is not built in the noise of the world. It is built in the silence of your room. In the early mornings when your alarm goes off and you rise without hesitation, in the late nights when you choose to study, work, or train instead of wasting time. Solitude removes the mask you wear for others. It shows whether your work ethic is genuine or just for display. A disciplined man doesn't need an audience. He doesn't need praise or validation. He doesn't even need others to understand his grind. He knows that the habits he practices in solitude are the foundation of his future. Most people fail because they rely on external pressure to act. They only push hard when someone is watching, when there is accountability, when there is a fear of embarrassment. But the strongest men live by internal accountability. They hold themselves to a standard so high that even when they are alone, they demand greatness from themselves. That is the essence of discipline thriving in solitude. It is the ability to control yourself without external force. It is the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether anyone notices, regardless of whether anyone claps for you. Solitude is uncomfortable for weak men because it reveals their lack of control. When they are alone, their bad habits surface. They procrastinate, they indulge, they waste time, because without someone to hold them accountable, they collapse. But for the strong, solitude is not a weakness, it is a weapon. It becomes the space where they sharpen their mind, their body, their focus. While others are distracted by noise and company, the disciplined man is in solitude, creating himself, brick by brick, through relentless repetition. He doesn't need external validation because his validation comes from progress, from consistency, from knowing that while the world sleeps, he is advancing. Discipline in solitude also builds resilience. When you learn to push yourself without help, you become unbreakable. You no longer depend on others for motivation or structure. You carry it within yourself. This makes you dangerous because you are self-sufficient. You don't need to be told what to do. You don't need to be reminded of your goals. You don't need to be forced into action. You have trained yourself to move forward in silence, in solitude. And that independence creates a level of power that cannot be taken from you. Solitude is also the ultimate test of focus. The world is full of distractions. Friends, entertainment, gossip, endless noise pulling you away from your path. But when you embrace solitude, you strip away those distractions and force yourself into clarity. It is in solitude that you can think deeply, plan effectively, and align your actions with your vision. Discipline thrives in this environment because without distractions, you either face your task or face your weakness. And when you consistently choose the task over weakness, you become unstoppable. Some men fear solitude because it feels lonely, but solitude is not loneliness, it is freedom. It is freedom from noise, freedom from dependency, freedom from weakness. A disciplined man uses solitude to master himself. He knows that greatness is not built in front of an audience, it is built behind closed doors. Every rep in the gym when no one is cheering, every hour of work when no one is watching, every sacrifice made without recognition, all of it compounds into results that the world will one day be forced to acknowledge. When discipline thrives in solitude, it creates a man who cannot be swayed by comfort. Comfort destroys the weak, but it cannot touch the strong who have built themselves in silence. Solitude teaches you to delay gratification, to choose long-term victory over short-term pleasure. It teaches you to find strength in sacrifice, to embrace discomfort, to build unshakable habits that carry you through every challenge. And when the world finally sees your success, they won't understand the thousands of hours of solitude that built it. They'll only see the results, not the lonely grind that produced them. Discipline thrives in solitude because solitude removes all lies, all excuses, all masks. It is just you and the truth of your choices. And if you choose discipline again and again in that silence, you become something extraordinary. You become the man who doesn't need motivation, who doesn't need applause, who doesn't need permission to win. You become the man who builds himself in the shadows and emerges into the light with undeniable strength. Solitude is the soil, and discipline is the seed that grows within it. Water it daily, and it will transform you into a force that no one and nothing can stop. True power is revealed, not announced. The strongest men in history never had to stand on a stage and scream about how powerful they were. They didn't need to demand attention, they didn't need to broadcast their every move, and they didn't need to convince others of their greatness. Why? Because real power speaks for itself. It doesn't need noise, it doesn't need theatrics, it doesn't need validation. Power is something that is felt, not told. When true power enters a room, the atmosphere changes. People sense it, they recognize it without explanation. And that recognition is infinitely louder than any announcement ever could be. The reason weak men announce their power is because they don't have it. They crave recognition, so they try to convince the world of something they haven't earned. But words without proof are hollow. You can talk about power, you can pretend to be strong, but if there is no foundation beneath your noise, it collapses the moment you are tested. This is why those who shout the loudest often fall the fastest. They mistake noise for strength, forgetting that real power never has to scream. True power is revealed in moments of action, in results, in victories, in undeniable presence. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be hidden once it has been earned. Think about a storm. Before the thunder, there is silence. The clouds gather quietly, the winds shift, the air thickens, and only when the storm unleashes its force does the world truly see its power. That is how real men operate. They prepare in silence, they build in silence, they grow in silence. And when the time is right, their power is revealed in a way no words could ever capture. You don't hear the preparation, you only see the impact. That's the essence of revealed power. It is undeniable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. True power is also measured by control. The loudest man in the room is usually the weakest because he lacks control over his emotions. He needs to prove himself, he needs to be seen, he needs to fill the silence with noise. But the man who is truly powerful does not need such validation. His calmness is intimidating because it reflects mastery over himself. He doesn't react impulsively, he doesn't waste energy proving himself to others, he doesn't shout to be heard. He speaks when necessary, and when he does, people listen. Not because his words are loud, but because his presence has already commanded respect. Power is revealed through consistency. It is in the man who shows up every day, who endures struggle after struggle without complaint, who builds quietly over years until one day his success cannot be ignored. He didn't need to announce his journey, he simply lived it. And when the results appeared, the world had no choice but to acknowledge them. That is the beauty of revealed power. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It forces recognition through undeniable proof. Another dimension of true power lies in resilience. Life will test every man. Those who only announce their strength crumble under pressure because their power was never real. But the man who built in silence, the man who endured without needing applause, the man who trained his mind and spirit when no one was watching, that man reveals his power in adversity. When others break, he stands tall. When others quit, he pushes forward. And in those moments, his strength is revealed without a word. Power is not about how loud you are when things are easy. It is about how unshakable you remain when everything falls apart. Real power is also timeless. Words fade, boasts are forgotten, but revealed power leaves a legacy. A man's actions, his achievements, his character, these echo long after he is gone. No one remembers the man who shouted about how great he was. People remember the man who proved it. They remember the leader who led by example, the warrior who fought with honor, the builder who created something that outlived him. True power doesn't vanish with time because it was never built on noise. It was built on action, on resilience, on discipline, on truth. This is why men who chase applause rarely find greatness. Applause is temporary. It disappears as soon as the noise fades. But revealed power, built in silence, is permanent. It doesn't rely on outside approval. It stands on its own. The man who carries true power doesn't care who sees it because he knows it cannot be taken away. It isn't borrowed. It isn't faked. It isn't dependent on others. It is internal, earned, and unshakable. True power is revealed, not announced, because power does not need to convince. It compels. It compels respect. It compels recognition. It compels change. People don't follow the loudest voice. They follow the strongest presence. They follow the man whose actions prove everything his words could never say. So stop trying to announce yourself to the world. Stop wasting energy on noise, on validation, on convincing others. Build in silence, grow in silence, suffer in silence, and one day your power will be revealed so clearly, so undeniably, that no words will be necessary. The world will see it, feel it, and be forced to respect it. That is real power. Respect is earned, not demanded. Too many men today confuse fear with respect, attention with respect, or validation with respect. They think that by shouting louder, by intimidating others, by demanding recognition, they will be respected. But true respect doesn't work that way. Respect cannot be forced, it cannot be bought, it cannot be begged for. It is earned through character, through action, through consistency, and through strength. When you try to demand respect, what you reveal is insecurity. But when you live in such a way that others cannot deny your worth, respect becomes automatic. It comes not because you asked for it, but because you proved you deserved it. Respect is built over time. It doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from countless small moments where you hold yourself to a higher standard. It comes from showing discipline when it would be easier to quit. It comes from keeping your word even when no one is watching. It comes from carrying yourself with integrity, refusing to compromise your values, and proving your strength in silence. The man who consistently embodies these traits doesn't need to demand respect. It follows him naturally. People respect reliability. They respect strength. They respect authenticity. They respect the man who lives by principles rather than convenience. The reason demanding respect never works is because respect is about how others perceive your actions, not your words. You can demand fear by threats, but fear fades once your power is tested. You can demand attention by noise, but attention disappears when something louder comes along. Respect is different. Respect stays because it is built on recognition of value. People respect what they trust, what they admire, what they aspire to. You don't control whether someone fears you or notices you, but you do control whether they respect you, because that comes down to how you live and how you act consistently. A respected man doesn't need to remind anyone of his value. His actions prove it. His results prove it. His presence proves it. When he walks into a room, respect is automatic, not because he shouted about it, but because everyone already knows what he stands for. That is the difference between demanding and earning. The man who demands is chasing something he hasn't yet built. The man who earns has already laid the foundation, and others simply recognize it. Respect is also earned through resilience. People don't respect the man who quits when life gets hard. They don't respect the one who talks big but disappears when adversity strikes. They respect the one who keeps moving forward no matter what. The one who gets back up after every fall. The one who holds his composure under pressure. The one who refuses to be broken even when everything is against him. That kind of resilience cannot be faked. It is revealed over time, and when people witness it, respect becomes inevitable. Another way respect is earned is through strength of character. Strength is not just about physical power or financial success, it's about discipline, loyalty, honor, and integrity. People respect the man who keeps his promises, who defends those who cannot defend themselves, who stands firm in his convictions even when it costs him. They respect the man who does what is right, not what is easy. Demanding respect without living by these principles is empty, but living by them without saying a word builds a reputation that no one can deny. Respect is also reciprocal. You cannot demand respect from others if you do not respect yourself. A man who disrespects himself through laziness, through weakness, through dishonesty will never gain true respect from others. People mirror the standard you set for yourself. If you carry yourself with pride, discipline, and strength, the world will treat you accordingly. If you lower your standards, if you tolerate weakness in yourself, if you live without purpose, others will reflect that back at you. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how others treat you. Earning respect takes time, patience, and relentless consistency. You may go years without being noticed, years of grinding in silence, years of building your character and your craft. But when the moment comes, when your actions bear fruit, the respect you gain will be real. It will be solid, it will be lasting, and it will not fade when the noise dies down. That's the beauty of earned respect. It cannot be taken away. Demanded respect is fragile, but earned respect is permanent. Respect is earned, not demanded. Because respect is truth. You cannot trick people into truly respecting you. You can trick them into fear, you can trick them into temporary attention, but real respect only comes when you have lived in such a way that it cannot be denied. So stop chasing shortcuts, Stop trying to convince others to respect you with noise, arrogance, or empty threats. Focus on building yourself into a man of strength, integrity, and resilience. Focus on results, on consistency, on character. Because when you do, respect will follow you everywhere. Not because you asked for it, but because you became the kind of man who commands it without a single word. At the end of it all, life will never remember what you said. It will remember what you did, who you became, and the impact you left behind. Real men don't waste time shouting about their greatness or begging for recognition. They build themselves in silence. They sacrifice in the shadows. They work when no one believes in them, and when the moment comes, their results roar louder than any words could. Power, discipline, respect, these things cannot be demanded or faked. They are forged in solitude, proven through action, and revealed when the world least expects it. You must understand, the path to becoming unshakable is not found in noise, but in patience, focus, and relentless dedication. The man who learns to master silence, the man who places results above talk, the man who builds discipline when nobody is watching, that is the man the world cannot ignore. Let others waste their energy trying to prove themselves with words. Let them announce, let them boast, let them demand. You, instead, will stay calm, focused, and dangerous. And when your time comes, your success will make the noise for you. That is the essence of strength. That is what makes a real man.